And to the good senator from Chanhassen, I could go on and tell a great story of a myth that started back in the days when I was head of the drum shop at Torp's Music Center. And Torp's Music Center in the 80s and 90s was the premier place for PRM Productions to come get their stuff. Every musician that had anything to do with this wonderful, beloved Minnesota icon named Prince used to come to that store. Right on Rice Street is where it was, Mr. President. And you know, for the longest time, to the good senator's point from Chanhassen, there was a story that you never said no to Prince. And yet, if Prince wanted something, he specifically knew what he wanted. Let me give you one example, Mr. President, if you would let me indulge that. It's not what you think. Prince was a Yamaha-endorsed drummer. This man was the wonderful musician who was he could play every instrument that was there. And one was he was a drummer. Believe it or not, he was endorsed. And once you become endorsed by a certain drum company, then you became an A drummer. That meant if you needed something, you would just show up at the music store that you chose and you would just say, I need this. Well, he never came in, but he would send people in. And the I need this means I would have to fill out a piece of paper and I would send it into, in this case, Yamaha, and they would not only they would give you back the product that you had to give that person because they were endorsed. I mean, to be an A-class or an A-endorsed musician means you're at the top of your game, right? One moment, the drum tech came in and it had a Yamaha bass pedal in the box, Mr. President, and Prince said this, told the drum tech, I need a new pedal, right? Well, the pedal was brand new, and so what they didn't do, the drum tech, he didn't release the springs that were in the pedal, Mr. President. And so all I did was I released the springs, gave it back to the drum tech and said, here, this brand new pedal is good to go for Prince. And he said, thank you, and he left. Well, the manager of the PRM Productions came up to me afterwards and said, you just got that guy fired. And I said, how did I get that guy fired? And of course, Mr. President, he said, because Prince said, and I quote, I want a new pedal. So with that, there was also a myth at the time, back in the 80s and in the 90s, of a certain musician that had a certain band that this person was the director of, the orchestral director of. And there was a certain gig that was happening maybe in Wembley Stadium or something, some other place in the world. And the myth was always that this senator, oh wait, I just gave it away, Senator. This certain individual might have done what no other musician would ever think of doing to Prince, was to just say no and hang up on him. Now, I don't confirm or deny that myth at this time to the good senator from Chanhassen, but I do have another story that I could tell if the senator would like to hear, but I cannot confirm or deny that question. I don't know, maybe we could resolve that by somebody who's in this chamber.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Hoffman yield for one more question?
Senator Hoffman, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Senator Hoffman, you can neither confirm nor deny whether somebody who may have served or is serving as a Senate president did hang up on Prince Rogers Nelson.
Mr. President?
I'm not going to let him speak. Senator Hoffman.
Mr. President, and to that point, you know, I can neither deny or confirm that might have, could have happened. But the myth was, to the good senator, but there was also something that if I could divulge one more time, if the senator from Chanhassen would let me tell one more story.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President. So there was this radio station, WLOL, top of the IDS, 99.5, right? And that's how the guy would say it, if you really want to hear those words. It wasn't my voice that did it, but there's my wife was Kelly Fox from WLOL, 99.5. And that was Heinz Berglund, Eleanor Mondale. There was this whole group, and they did their picture in front of the original graffiti bridge that Prince, of course, it was in his backyard in the beautiful town of Chanhassen / actually it was in Eden Prairie, but we won't tell the good senator from Chanhassen where that bridge really was. But there was this person, Prince, was a good neighbor who cared about Minnesota to the point where before he would release his music that was released to the rest of the world, he would give WLOL a copy of that music, Mr. President. I don't know if you knew this, but then for him to say, here, it wasn't him but his staff. Of course, he was the one saying it because nobody said no to Prince, right, Mr. President? And so the thing with that was the music would show up at WLOL before it got released to the rest of the world, and they actually put newspaper on their studio glass windows so they couldn't see anybody coming in with cease and desist letters because the lawyers were all lined up, because Prince didn't care about the overall structure of people that were trying to drive him. What he cared about was the fact that the people he loved dearly was Minnesota, and his music would get played first here at the great WLOL 99.5. So with that, Mr. President and the good senator from Chanhassen, I will not divulge any more information I know whether or not, but there is a myth out there, Mr. President, and you know this myth, I think, maybe. You might have heard the story, and I will not tell any more because I just don't want to get in trouble with a certain senator in this body.